Fred Hammond. Love that song. Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endures forever. Taken straight from Psalms 136. And we know that God has done marvelous things. He's yet doing marvelous things. Every moment of our lives, God is doing marvelous things. Deacon Kenny Goodwin, good morning to you. It's another thankful Thursday, and I'm certainly thankful to God for allowing us to see another day. Jerry Thomas, good morning to you. We are just so tremendously blessed. I thank God for this platform here this morning, and thank all of you that are part of our Canaan Worship Center family, and those who are outside of our Canaan Worship Center family, but who are yet a part of our Morning Mocha family. Thank you so much for your support and your participation. I think this is a pretty unique platform. I don't know of very many other churches who sponsor a platform such as this, wherein you're getting fed every morning. Every morning. I'm not just saying that because I'm the instrument that God is using to feed you, but it's just a blessing to have people, to be acquainted with people and associated with people and covenantly connected to people who love God enough to want to hear from him each and every morning. And, I often say that this is not a preaching platform, although the word goes forth, I believe, every morning when we come together, because everything I talk about is based on biblical principles, and it's for your learning, for your enhancement, for your enrichment, and particularly to add value to your life. That's our primary objective. So those of you that are joining us for the very first time, and you're not quite sure what this is really all about, this is all about you and adding value to your life and showing you and sharing with you kernels of wisdom that you can use daily in your life. It's all about taking principles and applying them to your life. Because if you hear them but never apply them, they'll never do you any good. So I trust and pray that you're not just hearing the word, if you will, but you're being doers of the word as well, whatever form that word comes in. Practical wisdom, it must be applied if it's going to benefit you, if it's going to bless your life. And I try to find ways to apply the wisdom that I find in the Word of God. I try to find ways to apply it to my life every day. And I'm telling you, it's smoothed out some rough patches for me. Cheryl Brown, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. When I apply those principles to my life, some of the rough patches that I've hit during times of my life, over the course of my life, it helps to smooth those rough patches right on out. And you got to be patient with it. You got to believe it. You got to remain consistent in terms of taking the word of God, adhering to it, and applying it to your life. All right. Today, I want to talk to you about treasuring trash. Yeah, treasuring trash. Where are you going with this, Dr. Cobbins? Well, I'm basically going to be talking about hoarding offenses because there are a lot of people who literally live their lives hoarding offenses. They pick up one offense after another and they just hang on to them. How many of you have ever watched the reality TV show Hoarders? Quite sure there's probably a lot of you that have either watched it or seen it or whatever. But the show takes a deep look into the lives of people who have an obsession with hoarding things. Most of the hoarders literally live in deplorable conditions. Man, I tell you, sometimes it sends chills all through my body when I see the cameras begin to pan through those small areas, and there's just junk and trash piled up almost to the ceiling, sometimes piled up all the way to the ceiling. And it just does something to me to see people live in those conditions. But these hoarders, literally, they live in a deplorable condition, and usually they live alone, and they live a life of a recluse. They live in isolation. They're very isolated, and they are very withdrawn from the rest of society. Um, um, Medical experts have identified these people as having a hoarding disorder. It's actually a disorder. Some people just seem not to be able to help it. They just can't help but to hoard things. They refuse to throw things away. They collect things that have little to no value, and they rarely throw away or get rid of things, even though the items may have reached a point of having lost their usefulness. Thing can be absolutely worth nothing, but yet and still they want to hold on to it. This compulsion is a habit that is hard, if not impossible, for these people to break. And when I'm viewing this show as they're going through, I feel that my heart goes out to these people, because apparently something is out of order in their life. And any attempt to remove some of these items from their premises, or to convince them to get rid of some of these things, it just causes some of them to have anxiety uh, um, anxiety attacks. That's what I wanted to say. And it's so sad to see them go through those struggles and literally almost have mental breakdowns, because people are suggesting that they would get rid of things. Now, again, in most of these cases, some of them know they have a problem, but they choose to either ignore the problem or dismiss the problem. They'd rather do that rather than fixing the problem. They feel like if anyone comes in and tries to help them fix the problem or rectify the problem, that they are intruding upon their personal space, their personal life. And it literally, some of them go beyond just having a panic attack or an anxiety attack, but some of them get angry and they respond with outrage. Why? It's because they don't want to go through that whole process of experiencing separation anxiety. They fear being separated from these material things that they deem to be so important to them. And so what they're literally doing is that they're treasuring trash. Now, I know that many of you likely view hoarding as an abnormal activity. I'm quite sure many of you would say, yes, that's strange. That's abnormal. Yes, something is definitely wrong with that person who has that kind of disorder. But is it really an abnormal activity? Is it an abnormal activity for you? Some of you would say, well, it would be for me. Well, let's think about this. The reality is, you can be a hoarder of things that are not of a material nature. You can hoard more than material goods. Watch this. You can be a hoarder of negative thoughts. And when you're a hoarder of negative thoughts, it keeps you from functioning at your highest level in life. One example of this in particular is a person who is a hoarder of grudges and offenses. Yeah. Some people get a hold of some things and they never let them go. I feel like I'm really hitting home with somebody already. Some of you can think of some things that you've been holding on to, that you have against someone that you've been holding on to for years, even now decades, and you refuse to let it go. Why? Because it is so important to you. The person who is a hoarder of grudges and offenses is the person who is living in unforgiveness. You're refusing to forgive someone who has offended you in some way or another. Now, I know we've talked about things like this before, but I want you to really consider this because, believe it or not, these kind of things, as insignificant as you may think they are, they can do a lot of mental and emotional damage to you to the degree it keeps you from moving forward in life. It affects how you interact with people. It undermines your willingness or ability to trust other people. You're just automatically suspicious of other people because of an offense that was committed against you years ago that you're refusing to let go of. People like that tend to find a sense of satisfaction with holding on to these offenses. They tend to believe that they hold an element of power over the person whom they refuse to forgive. They do all they can to others to get them to see that they are in some way punishing that other person. And the truth is, in many cases, when you're doing that, the only person you are really punishing is yourself. The person that tends to treasure the trash of offenses likely does so with not just one individual, but it's likely they do so with several individuals. It's a normal practice for them. Anyone that crosses them, anyone that disagrees with them, anyone that upsets them in any kind of way, they immediately label that individual and they decide, I don't like them anymore. They've offended me. I can't stand to be in their presence. I don't want to hear their voice. I don't ever want to see their faces. I don't even want to hear anybody call their names. Well, now think about that. If a person is having that kind of effect on you, who's really in bondage as a result of these offenses that you're holding against people? Really, really, really. People like that, people like what I'm describing right now, likely suffer from mental, emotional, and even spiritual deficiencies. That's just the truth. Yes, they can function from one day to the next. Yes, on the surface, they may appear to be normal, intelligent people. But when that spirit of offense begins to rise up, I found people like that to be very sensitive. And I've seen a whole lot of this kind of situation in my lifetime. I really have. It's kind of sad to say, but it's really true. Church people can be some of the most unforgiving people that you can ever run into. At least that's been my experience at times. And maybe because I've spent most of my life around people in the church, but we can be some of the most unforgiving people. Furthermore, we seem to get offended quicker than anyone. And that's not supposed to be a part of our spiritual makeup. That's not supposed to be a part of our spiritual character. We're supposed to possess the fruit of the Spirit, which is love, kindness, peace, temperance, meekness, long suffering and all of that. That's the kind of spirit we're supposed to have as believers. But yet and still, we can be some of the most unforgiving people that anyone could ever run into. Some of us, we're so adamant about holding on to our offenses that our offenses sometimes convert over into hatred. Not only are we offended by certain people, but we get to the point of hating people. And then we have the audacity to find ways to justify our holding on to our offenses. When that happens, there's nothing anyone can say or do that will cause you to let go of your offenses. Now, I know most of you that are on here that are viewing this right now, you can either say that I've been that person at one time, or I am that person even now, or I've known people like that. I've experienced people like that. I know someone who is holding something against me right now. Let me be the first to say, I know of people who are holding things against me right now. And it doesn't matter what I do, doesn't matter what I say, you know. And if you really dig right down into the real nitty gritty of this offense that they're holding, in many cases, I may have not had anything to do with what they're offended about. Listen, there are times that I, as a pastor, take on the offenses that were created by members of the congregation. Someone in the congregation says something sideways to somebody else in the congregation, and the person who gets offended, they get mad with me. I've had people get offended when I've tried to help them, trying to do things that were in their best interest, you know, trying to help to protect them from themselves. They've gotten upset with me, offended with me. And I've run into these people on occasion, even after they left the church, and try to speak to them. They turn their nose up at me and walk the other way. And I'm like, okay, you know. And when I tell you all, if I were to really give out the details of why they really got offended with me, you guys would say, oh no, you know. But I'm not going to divulge too much here. But again, it happens so many times. It's happened to me more than once. There have been times that I have served people and have done exactly what they have asked me to do, made sacrifices to do what they've asked me to do. But yet they got offended somewhere along the line, and I'm not even sure why they got offended, you know, but it happens all the time. All of us can probably have stories that we can tell, and we can point to certain people who have treated us this way. But again, the truth is, some of us need to go ahead and make the confession and say, hey, you know what? In all actuality, the truth be told, I've been that person. I've been that sensitive person who's been carrying an offense against certain people, an offense against a particular congregation. When you run into people like this, when you encounter people like this, when you have engaged a person that is sensitive like that and carries offenses for extended periods of time, no apology is good enough. No peace offering is good enough. No kind words are good enough. And again, the irony is, while they think they're keeping the other person in bondage, the reality is they are only keeping themselves in bondage, because they are allowing the presence of that person, the mentioning of the person's name, any reference to that person, they are allowing those things to totally affect their atmosphere. People allow people to instantaneously ruin their mood, ruin their day. Why would you allow someone else to ruin your day? Even if a person has offended you and they have refused to apologize to you, why would you give them the power to ruin your day? And why would you allow them to have that power over an extended period of time? I'm not talking about days. I'm not talking about weeks. I'm not talking about months. I'm talking about years. You would feel better if you would just let go of some of those things that you're carrying. Your spirit would be much lighter if you would just let go of some of the things that you're carrying. You would be able to experience a greater sense of joy and peace in your life if you would just learn to let go of some of the offenses that you are hoarding. It's trash. And you're literally treasuring trash that has absolutely no value, that adds absolutely no value to your life. I want you to think about this. Just as physical trash will eventually stink up the place, the trash of offense will eventually leave a stench on your life. People who live in squalor, okay, people who live in deplorable conditions are used to those things, and they can't see how bad those things are. Neither can they smell the stench in the atmosphere because they have conditioned themselves to live in those conditions. Some of you have been holding things for so long. You've been hoarding the trash of offenses for so long. You've been treasuring these things for so long that you cannot smell the stench of these things upon your life. Other people can detect it. Other people can smell it. Why? Because they're not used to it. I mean, really think about it. And again, it just amazes me. It amazes me how many people will live year after year after year after year. There are a lot of families that deal with a great deal of dysfunction simply because family members refuse to forgive one another. That's sad. Brothers and sisters, brothers and brothers, sisters and sisters, mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, fathers and daughters, mothers and sons. Can't stand to be around each other. Don't know how to support each other. Refuse to support one another. They're living isolated lives from one another. Why? Because of this, whatever offense it is. And that they refuse to forgive for the offenses that have been perpetrated against them. Now, I understand that some of you may feel like, well, I've been through some traumatic experiences. I truly understand that. But you got to think about this. Once again, the person who offended you or created that traumatic experience in your life, they're going on about their business. They're not suffering the way that you're suffering because they have forgotten about it. you are holding on to it and you feel like you just can't let go of it. Now, let me say this. I don't want to minimize those type of situations because they can be real and they can have long-term effects upon people, adverse long-term effects upon people. But if you're that person that has been offended or violated in whatever way, and you've never sat down with someone and actually talk with someone on a professional basis and kind of unloaded these things, if you will, I would suggest that you do so. And there's nothing wrong with that. Let me please emphasize this. I can't emphasize this enough. For too long, have we made it taboo within our communities and among our people? We made it taboo for us to seek professional help in terms of helping us to resolve certain issues that we've been carrying all of our lives. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing ungodly about that. There's nothing that lacks spirituality about that, or unspiritual, if you will, about that. Let's get that corrected right here and now. Sometimes you need to sit down and talk with someone, especially if you've been carrying something for years. And these things, or whatever it is, have created this ongoing anxiety in your life. See, sometimes we are fearful of exposing our hurts and pains to other people because we feel as though it makes us vulnerable to other people. Now, again, I'm not telling you to go find a friend or a family member and talk to them about it. And I'm going to tell you why. It's better that you find a professional to talk to about certain things like that, because in most cases, the professional is bound. No, let me say, not most cases, in every case, the professional is bound to confidentiality. If you go talking to a family member, no sooner than the conversation is over, you might be running the risk of them picking up the phone and them calling another family member or a friend or whatever, say, man, girl, I didn't know so-and-so is messed up. She's dealing with this, that, and the other. Girl, you should have heard some of the things that she told me or he told me. And that wouldn't be good. You need to find a person that can help you to go through the process of healing. Not creating greater pain, but to help you to heal by dumping this trash that you've been treasuring and carrying around for so many years. It's okay. And can I say this? It doesn't need to be necessarily your pastor or another church member even now. I mean, if you trust your pastor like that, then fine. If your pastor is open to that. But I'll tell you right now, there are times that I've been available for people to talk to me. And when it reaches a certain level, I just tell them, I really think you need to talk to someone who is an expert in the field of the area in which you need the most help. I know my limitations. Yeah, I can talk to you all day about scripture. I can talk to you about praying. I can talk to you about walking in the Spirit. And some people would say, well, that ought to be enough. Well, it sounds good from a spiritual perspective. But if a person hasn't grown to that level of faith and belief, sometimes they need the professional help. And even sometimes when they have grown to that level, sometimes you need someone that you can physically talk to face to face and be able to purge yourself of all of this stuff that you've been carrying. See, again, when you're carrying all of this negativity and all of this trash, and you're treasuring these offenses, it's only working against you. It's only creating disruptions in your life. It's creating disruptions in your peace. You're constantly being traumatized by it. You're carrying this stuff, and I know periodically you may have dreams about this stuff where you relive it all over again, or you hear things that trigger thoughts that bring up certain memories that are not so pleasant, and you just hear these things in the normal course of your day or while you're watching a television program, and you find yourself sinking into a state of depression or whatever, or your spirit or your mood is totally changed because you've been carrying this trash. You've been literally treasuring this trash, and you have not yet acknowledged how carrying such trash has been detrimental to your overall well-being. Get rid of the offenses. Do whatever you have to get rid of the offenses, to get those things out of your spirit. You need to do so because, again, they have no value. They have absolutely no worth. These things do more damage to you than they do to the other person. You're damaging yourself internally. And some of you are pretty good at keeping up the facade, pretending as though everything is well. But then when you get in those lonely moments by yourself, in isolation, withdrawn from everything else, then these feelings start to surface again. And again, these things are damaging you, not the other person. When you hold on to offenses, it becomes an indictment against you in terms of your character and your level of maturity. Some of the stuff that some of us hold on to, it's not even worth holding on to. Some of the things that some of us get offended about are so petty. And when you start to talk to other people about it, you're talking to other people thinking that you're going to win them over and they're going to side with you. And a lot of times what they're thinking in the back of their minds is, I can't believe that you're holding on to something so petty. They're saying in the back of their minds, this is stupid. This is ridiculous. They may not say it to you, but sometimes that's the conclusion that they arrive at once that you've shared your offense that you're carrying with them. You don't want to be that sensitive person wherein you're so sensitive that it's always causing you to respond negatively or adversely. And from that, people are making certain conclusions about who you are and your character and your level of maturity. That person can't be too mature if they're holding on to something that's petty as what they've shared with me. Think about it. It happens all the time. Here's another thing. When you refuse to forgive, you're literally setting yourself up not to be forgiven. Now, this is one aspect of this whole thing that I think most people give little to no consideration to. You refuse to forgive, so then you are setting yourself up not to be forgiven. And all of us need to be forgiven at some time or another. All of us have had experiences in life wherein we did something that was offensive towards someone else that we needed that individual to forgive us for. If you've been married any length of time, you've done or said something that you needed to be forgiven for. If you've been a son or a daughter, which all of us have been, you've said or done something that you needed to be forgiven for. Even as a parent, you've said or done something toward that child that you need to be forgiven for. Now, while it's important that you not hold offenses to other people, it is also important that you not allow people to hold you in bondage to an offense that you may have perpetrated on someone else, but yet you've shown remorse and even now asked forgiveness for it, and that person refuses to hold on to it. Don't allow anybody to keep you in that bondage. You know, if I've shown remorse to you, if I've told you that I'm sorry, if I've apologized in every way that I know to, you know, after I do that, I'm going to say, you know what? This is on you now. I'm not going to stress myself out about it. If you don't want to speak to me when I'm in your presence, fine. We're just going to keep it moving because I know my heart and you're expressing your heart. So I guess now we have an understanding. But one thing you're going to understand as it pertains to me is that I'm not going to allow you to keep me in that bondage. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'll get to the point where I'll say, I just don't care anymore. Have you ever gotten to that point? And the reason why I get to that point is because caring takes a lot of energy. It takes too much energy to care about a situation wherein a person only wants to keep foolishness ongoing. You're not looking for resolution. You're looking to continuously punish someone. No, don't let anybody keep you in that kind of bondage. All right. Now, back to those of you that may be that person who's carrying offense. I know I've made some people very uncomfortable this morning because anytime you start addressing issues like this, wherein a person know that they're carrying an offense against someone and they have already determined, I'm not letting it go. I don't care what anybody said. It makes them uncomfortable to hear things like this being discussed. But I'm trying to help you to put yourself in a better position mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So here's how you got to go about doing that. First of all, you have to acknowledge that you have a problem. Thank you, Sister Darlene. She said, been on both sides. That's true confession. I think all of us at one time or another can say we've been on both sides. Or maybe you can't. Well, I can agree with Sister Darlene. I've been on both sides. I've had things happen to me that it took me a while to let go of those things. It really did. And I didn't think that they were affecting me adversely, but when I look back retrospectively, I had to come to the conclusion, you know what? That was kind of pulling me down. It was stopping me from moving forward because I dwelled on it much longer than I should have. So you must acknowledge you have a problem. And then secondly, you must admit that it is adversely affecting your life. Start there. And then thirdly, you got to embrace the benefit of being released from the spirit of offense. Got to be able to see the good of being released from that bondage of offense. I think I alluded to it earlier. You gain a peace of mind that has been eluding you for all of this time that you've been carrying these offenses. You stop allowing people to ruin your day or upset your atmosphere simply by their presence or the mentioning of their names. Think about how much better you will feel when you stop allowing things like that to happen over some foolishness that occurred many, many, many years ago. Again, I would suggest that you go and talk to a professional if you need to do so. And sometimes, in certain cases, your insurance will pay for that. But if such is not the case, how much are you willing to invest in your own peace of mind? You'll buy clothes, you'll buy cars, you'll buy homes. You feel as though you're making those kind of investments. You'll spend money on entertainment. Why not take some of that monies and allot it to you sitting down and paying someone to listen to you talk, and maybe occasionally at some point during the course of you speaking, they can help you to further discover some things that will help to release you out of that bondage that you're in. See, sometimes people say, well, I'm not going to pay just to go talk to somebody. You pay to go let people talk to you? What do you mean, Bishop? You pay to go to the movies? You pay to go to concerts or whatever? You pay to go to conferences? You know, sometimes you need to be willing to invest some money, because please understand, that person who has to listen to you, they have to give up themselves, and they are worthy of their hire. They are. You got to consider that. But then at the same token, you got to look at it like this. You are worthy of investing in yourself. Thank you, Shauna. That's good. Invest in your mental health. It truly has benefits. I've released you from that whole taboo stigma wherein we think that anytime mental health is mentioned, that is referring to a person being crazy, and that is not true. I gave y'all this example just a few days ago. How many of you have said, that's getting on my nerves? I talked the other day about mental maintenance. All of us have said that. And some of us have been very angry when we've made those statements. That shows that something was affecting you mentally and emotionally. And if you didn't get a handle on it, you were likely on the verge of doing something that at the least would have been outside of your normal character. That's all about mental maintenance. It's okay to take care of your mental health. You know, we spend so much money trying to make sure that we take care of our physical health. And here's what we don't understand is that if that mental health isn't right, then the physical health is not going to be, what it should be. Think about that. Your physical health starts first with your mental health. A lot of people don't consider that. Yet we deem it fashionable to go and spend all kind of monies on acquiring the physique, the shape, the weight that we desire to carry on our bodies. We'll spend all kind of monies. Personal trainers, dietitians, consultants, food prep people. We'll spend all kind of money. And then you're sitting up here so mentally and emotionally unstable, and you're yet wondering what's wrong with my life. Some of you have convinced yourself, well, if I just lose the weight, I'll be happy. No, the weight is there likely because you are mentally and emotionally unstable. Hello. I talk all the time about the need to lose weight. Yes, I do. And one of the things that I concluded is that in order for me to lose the weight that I really need to lose and want to lose, I'm going to have to find a way to become more disciplined in my eating. Now, I'm just going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Sometimes I eat because I get bored. I got to find the mental and the emotional capacity to overcome that. I mean, think about it. And I know I'm not the only one. I'm not the only person who battles with that. Even now, people have told me, well, you don't look so bad. You're not all that big or whatever. Well, that's you saying that. I'm not satisfied with where I am in terms of my weight. Now, I don't need you telling me that, because that ain't none of your business. This is another thing. Let me say this while I'm there. Those of you that have a proclivity to do this, you walking up to family members and friends and talking about, oh, you ain't seen them in a while. Boy, you didn't got so big. You big as a house. Don't nobody want to hear you talk about that. They know what size they are. And I guarantee you, they're already self-conscious about that. Tiffany, now that is funny. Tiffany said, I eat just because it's 3 o'clock. Oh my gosh. Now that is funny. But here's the funny part about it. That most of the time when I find myself snacking or reaching for something that may not be as healthy as I need for it to be, Tiffany, believe it or not, it's around 3 o'clock that comes down on me. Oh my gosh. So me and you, Tiffany, we just going to start praying at 3 o'clock. Y'all start to pray for me and Tiffany at 3 o'clock every day, because we're going to be reaching for snacks or something to eat. All right. No, in all seriousness, yes, I've got to discipline myself. That's all about mental strength, if you will. I'm not crazy, not nowhere near crazy. I don't even consider myself mentally unstable. But I will say that there are some disciplines that I need to have strengthened with regards to my eating habits. And in order for that to happen, I've got to be mentally and emotionally stable. Some of you eat when you get upset. Y'all know it's the truth. Folk make you mad, and you go off and go eat. And you eat a lot. Some of you are carrying what I would label now as anger pounds. I'm not making fun of anybody, but again, there are times that we take ourselves much too seriously. We need to be able to laugh at ourselves sometime, but then while we're laughing at ourselves, be able to see the seriousness of the matter and determine within ourselves to make a change. Let me give you this one more thing, and I'm going to wrap it up here. Is that once you've acknowledged that you have a problem, once you admit that the problem is affecting you adversely, and once you can embrace the benefits of being released from your offenses, then the next thing you need to do is release those offenses and never pick them back up again. Let them go. It's not worth someone just keeping you in a tizzy simply because you're not willing to let go of something that's been haunting you for years. Let it go. Let it go. Even if you have to develop a sense of detachment from that individual. I've learned to do it. I just detach myself. See, one of the reasons why, believe it or not, one of the reasons why you carry an offense against a person for as long as you do is because you had developed a sense of attachment to that person. Now, how deep the attachment was, I can't say, but there was an element of attachment to that person that caused you to feel a certain way once that person offended you. And because of the attachment that you had to that person, it hurts you much deeper than just an ordinary offense coming from an ordinary person, if you will. That's the best way I can say that. And sometimes what you have to do is just somewhat remove yourself, detach yourself from that person, and stop giving them such a place of importance in your life. You all have heard me speak on several occasions about how certain church people have hurt me and offended me, and I had to deal with those things for a while. It was because I had given them a special place in my life, so to speak. I had somewhat of an attachment to them and felt like they had somewhat of an attachment to me, that there was mutual love and respect for one another. But then this person has hurt me and hurt me bad in some areas. And like I said, I've been through it on several occasions. But it was not until I learned how to detach myself from that person and really erase all of that special place that I had given them in my life or in our working relationship. Just detach, erase, move on. And I'll tell you something else. One of the things that you'll learn in the long run, when you start to kind of review certain things that have happened to you, certain people who were in your life and offended you and hurt you and left a scar upon your life, when you start to kind of review things, see where you are now, see the direction that you were headed in at that particular time, and when you assess everything and look at it honestly and with an eye of wisdom, sometimes you have to conclude that the breakup was more for your benefit. How about that? Some people you need to become detached from because they are operating out of an ungodly spirit and they have hidden agendas. And there are times that your affinity towards that individual creates a blind spot in your life to the degree that you can't see or detect who that person really is until they have been removed out of your life. I know that's a little deep for some of you, but it is definitely true. All right? Stop hoarding that trash. It's not a treasure. Get rid of all those offenses. Let them go. Keep it moving. Separate yourself if necessary. Take care of yourself mentally and emotionally. And I guarantee you, you will begin to live a more joy-filled life. Well, that's it, and that's all for today. Hope you've been blessed by it. I hope it's got you to thinking, giving some careful consideration to what I said. And I hope you are encouraged to let go of all the trash that's in your life that's only creating clutter and disrupting your joy and your peace that you're bound to have in Christ Jesus. All right, y'all. That's it, and that's all. I look forward to you all being with us on tomorrow. We'll be right back here at the same time on this same channel. Don't forget to go over to my personal YouTube page. We're trying to get that built up. Go over there and subscribe. Dr. Tony D. Cobbins. We're going to be shifting some things in the not so distant future, and we're just trying to get everything laid out and set up over there. So go over and subscribe to that channel now as we speak. Tony D. Cobbins. Go in the search bar, type my name in, Dr. Tony D. Cobbins, and go to that channel and subscribe to that channel as well. It will be greatly appreciated. All right. God bless y'all until tomorrow morning. As I often say, my prayer and desire is that you have a blessed, wonderful, and even prosperous rest of your day. God bless.